Alright everybody, there is a relatively new manga series that I've very quickly grown to love, and I need to talk about it. If your tastes are similar to mine, then you should probably give this series a shot. The manga I'm talking about is Frieren Beyond Journey's End, written by Kanehito Yamada and illustrated by Tsukasa Abe. At the time that I'm recording this, 8 volumes have been released, and the story is still ongoing. This video, however, will only be talking about the first volume, since the strength of this manga's premise was enough to get me to read volume 1, and once I did that, I was all in for the entire series. So there will be no spoilers for anything after volume 1, even though I will be talking about volume 1 in full spoilers. I will say though that there are a few characters and storylines in the first volume that I'm going to purposely avoid talking about, because I want you to still be able to discover new things when you hopefully go read volume 1 for yourself after watching this video. And if I do manage to convince you to give this book a shot, leave a comment telling me what you think of it. But for now, let's get into it and see what Frieren Beyond Journey's End is all about. The story begins where every other story ends. The heroic party of adventurers consisting of Himmel the hero, Eisen the warrior, Heiter the priest, and Frieren the mage have completed their quest. After 10 long years of constant travel and combat, they finally destroyed the Demon King, ushering in an era of peace across the land. And they did it just in time to see a meteor shower that only happens once every 50 years, a truly beautiful display that made it seem like the heavens above were celebrating the success of the hero's party. Frieren suggests they all meet up for the next meteor shower, since she knows a much better place to view it, and all Himmel can do is laugh. He knows there's no guarantee that everyone in the party will still be alive in 50 years, but that's not something that would ever occur to Frieren. She's an elf, meaning her natural lifespan is much longer than that of a human. She talks about her plans for the next century like I talk about my plans for the weekend. But her friends just smile and agree to meet up once again for the next meteor shower. The next day, they say their goodbyes and go their separate ways. What follows is a montage of Frieren wandering the countryside, exploring the world, and getting into trouble. It's a really fun page full of goofy misadventures, and I especially like what's now become a running gag of her repeatedly getting trapped by a mimic, a monster pretending to be a treasure chest. But then I noticed something that gave me a very unsettling feeling. There are 2 separate winters depicted on this page. That's when I realized that what I thought was days or weeks or possibly months was actually multiple years. Even worse, I had no idea how many years had passed, but since the montage only showed 2 winters, I was confident that it couldn't have been very many. That's when Frieren returned to the city where she parted ways with her friends. She came to watch the meteor shower with them. It had been 50 years. Himmel, Eisen, and Heiter had all grown very old, but they still kept their promise and gathered together one last time, following Frieren through the woods on one final adventure. They explored, camped out, told stories, and even fought a monster or 2, before finally arriving at their destination just in time for the meteor shower to begin. This truly was one perfect, beautiful moment in time, and an experience that everyone present would always treasure. This would be the last memory that this party of heroes, this group of friends, would ever make together. Not long after that wonderful night, Himmel passed away. At the funeral, Frieren breaks down in tears, not only because her friend was gone, but because she realized much too late that she never took the opportunity to get to know him in the first place. Like I said before, human lifespans are very short compared to that of an elf. And from Frieren's perspective, the 10 years they spent together wasn't enough to be anything but acquaintances. In her own words, I hardly knew anything about him. We only traveled together for 10 years. Throughout the first volume, the antagonist of the story is the passage of time. More specifically, the way time and opportunity slip away from us while we're too busy to notice. At this point in the story, we don't know exactly how old Frieren is, but we do get a flashback to the days when she was training as an apprentice under another mage. That flashback took place 1,000 years ago. and Frieren barely looked any different than she does in the present. Our natural lifespans have a great impact on the way we interact with the world around us. We know, roughly, how many years we have to live, and that helps us appreciate each day. But even still, time can get away from us. A week will seem to end as quickly as it began. A summer full of potential will come and go without you having accomplished any of the goals you set for yourself because you got distracted and you thought there would always be time later. Now imagine what it would be like to see the world from the perspective of someone whose natural lifespan is thousands of years long. To perceive years as though they're days, decades as though they're weeks. For the first time in her very long life, Frieren becomes painfully aware of this difference, and it devastates her. She missed the chance to truly get to know the people closest to her, and she has no idea what she could have done differently, since this was all a consequence of living her life normally. This experience sets her on the path of trying to value people more, and Frieren finds herself compelled to revisit places that she and her party went to on their travels. Himmel, Eisen, and Heiter all had so many joyous memories of their time together, but for Frieren, those 10 years passed in the blink of an eye, and now all she wants is to discover everything that she missed the first time around. And along the way, Frieren indulges in her one hobby, collecting obscure magic spells with highly specific functions, like a spell to polish bronze statues, or a spell to turn sweet grapes into sour grapes. Really random, trivial stuff that seems pretty useless until you realize that there are old, weathered bronze statues of her party members in need of upkeep all over the country. And a throwaway line in one flashback reveals that Eisen always loved the taste of sour grapes. Make no mistake, Frieren is in fact a weird hoarder of random magic spells that are so oddly specific that many of them couldn't possibly be of any use. But magic is what she knows best, and sometimes her continual pursuit of it is what helps her to build a bridge to the past, one memory at a time. Unfortunately, old habits are hard to break, and adopting a new way of doing things can be hard if you've been living your life a certain way for literal centuries. Frieren is confronted by that harsh reality thanks to the arrival of Fern, a young girl who was adopted by Frieren's old party member Heiter in the final years of his life. It was Heiter's last request that Frieren take Fern on as an apprentice, and once he passes away, the two of them set out on their journey together. Time passes, and eventually it's Fern's birthday. Frieren is struggling to figure out what to give Fern as a birthday present. After all, they haven't been together for very long, and she barely knows anything about Fern. So it came as a shock to her when they sat down at a cafe, and Fern correctly guessed exactly what Frieren wanted to order, because of how much she'd learned about what Frieren likes to eat. It reminded Frieren of a similar moment with her old party. They slowly got to know her while she remained ignorant of them. And this moment at the cafe is a real gut punch when you realize that Fern isn't a little girl anymore. This is her 16th birthday. Frieren did it again. She's let years slip away without even noticing. This is the exact thing she wanted to avoid. She wanted to learn to appreciate her time with people, to really get to know them, and instead she's missing out on the life of a traveling companion all over again. The one thing that kept this moment from becoming a complete disaster was Fern, who honestly does feel gratitude that someone as emotionally disconnected as Frieren was legitimately trying to know more about her. And I want to talk about Fern's age for a moment, because it's a good example of how this story presents the passage of time in a way that's intended to make us feel as disconnected from the rest of the world as Frieren does. This volume takes place over the course of about 79 years, and aggressively refuses to present the passage of time in any sort of conventional way that would be easy to keep track of. In fact, the only direct way this series measures the flow of time is by telling us how many years it's been since the death of Himmel the hero, since that was the inciting incident that's propelling this entire series forward. Now, that's not to say that the passage of time is somehow abstract or unknowable. The series always gives us enough information to figure it out if we really want to, and there's no better example of that than Fern's age. Once we're told that it's Fern's 16th birthday, it made me realize that I had no idea how long she and Frieren had been traveling together, or how old she was when Frieren began teaching her magic, so I looked back at the scattered pieces of information we were given. The first time we meet Fern, the timestamp says 20 years since the death of Himmel the hero. Frieren spends 4 years teaching her before they embark on their journey together. 2 chapters later, it's been 27 years since the death of Himmel the hero, and Fern just turned 16. So working backwards, that means they've been traveling together for 3 years, starting when Fern was 13, which would mean that Fern was 9 when Frieren first met her. When I think about the work I had to do just to assemble that timeline of events, or the single-page montage spanning 50 years between meteor showers, or the years since Himmel's death being the only marker of the passage of time, I begin to understand how Frieren sees the world. It's so easy to read the story without thinking about any of that stuff until the narrative hits you in the face with just how much time has passed without you realizing it. That's why it's so fitting that the only fight scene in this volume is against an opponent who embodies the consequences of the world passing you by. 80 years ago, there was a demon known as Qual, the Elder Sage of Corruption, a mage so accomplished that he created an unstoppable spell that could kill any opponent. He chose to simply call it killing magic. The hero's party did battle with Qual, but his magic was too strong, so they had no choice. Frieren had to seal him away, leaving him dormant for decades. Now the seal had grown weak, and it falls to Frieren to finish what she and her friends started 80 years ago. Once Qual wakes up, he immediately goes for the kill, firing a blast of his killing magic right at Frieren and Fern, but they're both totally fine. They were protected by a very basic defensive spell. Fern is very confused because she recognizes the killing magic. It's just an ordinary attack spell. In fact, it's the most basic attack spell that every mage learns before advancing to more effective spells. Frieren explains that Qual made the mistake of creating a spell so strong that the rest of the world had no choice but to respond. After he was sealed away, every human mage spent decades working together to study Qual's spell, to understand it, to adapt to it, and ultimately evolve beyond it. Now, a basic defensive spell can completely neutralize its effects, and the average armor and clothing worn by adventurers can also resist it enough to prevent instant death. Qual's greatest achievement had been rendered meaningless by the passage of time, to the point that only a studious mage or someone long-lived like Frieren would even remember his name or the significance of what he accomplished. This ends up setting the stage for much of Frieren's journey through the rest of the series, as the importance of legacy and the fragility of memory will have an ever-growing impact on the way she sees the world and the people in it. Much like Frieren, Qual is a mage from long ago who became ignorant of the world as it passed him by. But unlike him, there's hope for her to be able to come to terms with those changes and missed opportunities, and hopefully grow enough as a person to be able to live a more fulfilling life. The seeds of that hope can be found in the very next chapter. Once, the hero's party made plans to go watch the sunrise together, but Frieren chose to sleep in instead. She didn't see the point in going, since it's just a sunrise and there's nothing special about it. Honestly, she found it strange that everyone wanted to go at all, and couldn't understand why they would care about her staying behind. Now she's determined to make up for lost time, to stand in the spot her friends stood all those decades ago, to see what she missed. And even though it required Fern to literally drag her out of bed, Frieren did it. She finally saw it for herself. And she still didn't get it. It was just a sunrise. But then she looked at Fern, standing next to her, with a smiling face illuminated by the newly risen sun, and it made Frieren smile too. Fern notices, and says that Frieren seems to be enjoying herself. Frieren goes to correct her, saying that she only smiled because Fern smiled first, and in that moment, she finally understood. It was never about the sunrise. It was always about the people you share the experience with. It's a very simple lesson, but an important one, especially for someone who's so used to taking people for granted. By the end of Volume 1, Frieren and Fern are given a quest by Eisen, the only other member of the hero's party still alive. Eisen wanted to make sure his old friend wouldn't spend the rest of her long life regretting words left unsaid, so he sets Frieren on a path that would give her one last chance to make it right. At the northernmost part of the continent, there's a location where it's said that souls gather, and the living might speak with the dead. This is the very spot where the Demon King's castle stands, the same castle where the hero's party did battle all those years ago, ushering in an era of peace. Going there would mean one final chance to speak with Himmel, Heiter, and soon Eisen. And the only way to reach that spot is for Frieren to retrace her party's footsteps, reliving those long-forgotten memories as she hopefully comes to know more about her old friends along the way. But this journey won't just be about reconnecting with the ghosts of old friends, it's also about forming bonds with new ones, because Fern will be right by her side throughout this journey. And she won't be the only one, but that's a conversation for another time. There's a hopeful sadness to this book that's honestly unlike anything else I've read. It stresses the importance of opening ourselves up to new experiences, and paying attention to each other while we have the chance, and yet also argues that you haven't truly lost someone as long as you have your memories of them. It's an exploration of the value of life and relationships. It's a meditation on what happens when we die and why some people need to believe in an afterlife. It's a story about generations and of a found family slowly coming together. But most of all, it's a story about time, and why we should cherish the little bit of it we have together. Although, as this manga points out on its very first page, just because your journey ends doesn't mean your story is over. So that's Volume 1 of Frieren Beyond Journey's End. I love this series, I can't wait to read more, and I'm very excited about the anime adaptation coming later this year. If you have any thoughts on the first volume, the subject matter, or you just have some manga recommendations that you think would be right up my alley, tell me all about it in the comment section down below. Maybe if there's enough interest, I'll revisit this series in a future video, so be sure to hit the like button and leave a comment if you want more, and subscribe so you don't miss any future videos when they come out. Everyone, thank you for taking the time to watch. My name is Dan. We'll talk again soon.